Shalom, 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 beloved angelic family and Gentiles. Let's talk a little bit today about comets. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, fair use is invoked for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute when an otherwise infringement may occur. Usages for nonprofit educational purposes tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, family, before we get started, I just want to say something. I am interested in the rays. This is my area talking about rays. And as far as the rays are concerned, that interest it's very broad regarding how the rays affect planets, the atmosphere, astrologically and astronomically, okay? Because just like this recent comet we just had was green, the comets have colors, which means that those colors are coming from the rays. So the rays have some effect coming through the planets, okay? So I'm interested in anything that has to do with the rays or colors, the planets. It doesn't matter. I'm not really closed off to anything. And I really want to say that when it comes to comets, there is not a lot um, out there about comets, although they exist. And there's nothing really in the Bible or anything like that that talks about comets per se, because as we know, our books have been perverted. A lot of things that was there, they were taken out. Certain books were changed. They told us what to read and what not to read and all these different things. And I just want to say, if you're at a point now where, you're listening to someone who's telling you what you should not read or what to read or what pertains to you and what doesn't pertain to you, then really that's the person you need to be sitting under, because we're at a point where we need to learn whatever we can learn, because we weren't destroyed for lack of all the knowledge we had. We were destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And at some point during our studies, we're going to change, how we proceed about what we do, and, you know, what type of feelings we have about an issue. We may change paths. We may change several paths, but that's up to us and the mighty one to make that decision. Don't let any person walking around here that put their pants on the same way you do tell you what to read and what you shouldn't read and what should be off limits because of this reason and that reason, because there's a lot that we don't know, because the Gentiles and the Psalms 83 nations have worked so hard to separate us from the mighty one, from the Ruach, from each other. And if you have a brethren out there, that's calling you out or telling you what to read and what not to read, run from that narcissist, okay? Because we should be past that by now. We should be way past that by now. And people who are still displaying these narcissistic attitudes, they've not grown past learning themselves, okay? Because a lot of people still need assurances. They need, to be, told that they're great, and, all these things. You have to know thyself. And if you still need this at this point date, go back and do the shadow work, okay? Just do the shadow work, because the narcissistic people are out there and the behaviors are coming out all the time. You have to be able to read those spirits, okay? So let's get in it about comets. So, Gentiles say the once in a lifetime green comet threatens FOMO sufferers everywhere. Okay. I was a bit confused about the title. So it says for FOMO sufferers everywhere. And then I look and it says for one night only. That's FONO. Anyway, let's get it. Meet C 2022 E3. Her friends call her the Green Comet for short. Who is she? A potentially unprecedented celestial happening. That is a lie. And this is what we're supposed to be doing at this date is tearing down Gentiles and their lies, not each other. We are no longer the focus of one another. We got to focus on tearing down the lies. Now, this unprecedented celestial happening is a complete and utter lie. You could trade in your typical evening blue light for some green light instead. It's a connection to history and the galaxy that won't try to sell you in something. See, 2022 E3 is a comet marked by its bright green nucleus and long faint ion tail. It was discovered in March 2022 and has been visible by telescope. But on Wednesday night, the comet was poised to be most visible to the naked eye in the northern hemisphere as it passed by, because normally you can't see them. Just because we can't see them with the naked eye doesn't mean that they're not there. Okay? This was the first time ever, or at the very least in thousands of years, that the comet would cross paths with Earth, and you got to watch. Okay? So there's a lot going on in this article. It's very short, but lies. One thing that we must learn is that Gentiles lie about everything. Everything is a complete and utter lie. There's some bits of truth in it, but for the most part, whatever they write, whatever you read, it's a lie. You just have to uncover the lies. Now, the beloved Brother Big Judah did a video a couple years ago about the comets and about the harbingers. If you get a chance, go watch that video because I've been trying to get the book that he used. What is that book? The Book of Miracles. In fact, I ordered the book and then the book was canceled after I had made the order. But his video is very good about the harbingers, and the pictures on there come from that Book of Miracles. So if you get a chance, go to his website and see if that video is still up. So let's check out this book about comets by L. Adolph Richards and see what he has to say about comets. So comets, of all the heavenly bodies with which astronomers have to deal, comets are among the most interesting. Okay, the appearance of these objects strikes most forcibly the attention of mortals, and their rarity, their singularity, their mysterious aspect astonish the most indifferent minds. So again, they said that they're rare. We're going to prove that lie. See, Gentiles, back in the day, they could lie about everything they wanted to lie about, tell us anything. It was never questioned. But this is not that time. So the phenomena which are constantly or regularly produced before our eyes, the things which we see every day may no longer excite either our attention or our curiosity, but in all countries and at all epochs, the strange aspect of these mysterious visitors traveling from out of the depths of space, their sudden appearance and the pale gleam of their nebulous comets have produced on the minds of men the effect of a formidable power menacing the very order established at the creation. Okay, so it says it is the unanimous testimony of history during a period of over 2,000 years that comets were omens of impending evil and messengers of an angry deity. Okay? It is the unanimous testimony of history during a period of over 2,000 years. So, how rare are these comets over a 2,000-year period? That comets were omens of impending evil and messengers of an angry deity. They were peculiarly omnibus of the wrath of heaven, and are harbingers of wars and famines, of the dethronement of monarchs and the dissolution of empires. They're very significant. These Gentiles know. They know exactly what it means. And this is, don't think that because we're not seeing the comments coming over that they're not here. They are. They've been coming over, but see, when all of the skies are polluted with all of this crap that they're putting up there to prevent us from seeing what's actually going on in the heavens, like our ancestors knew. See, they saw the comets too. They knew exactly what was going on, and the comets are here now. They're warnings, and I think, uh, please go look at that video Big Judah had about the harbingers, because I think our ancestors knew for like 10 years or something, of the impending crisis that was coming upon them, but they didn't do anything about it. They would not change. So just watch that video and you'll get more clarity. It's been a while since I've seen it, okay, but I do remember it. So the Mighty One gives quite a period of time before action is taken, before the final destruction comes, because the comments are warnings, letting them know that you screwed up, and they know this. I mean, it's right here, so they know exactly what's coming. The appearance of some of the great comets, according to the accounts we have of such events, form one of the most imposing of all natural phenomenon. We are not therefore surprised that feelings of awe and astonishment should be excited by the sudden and unexpected appearance of some of these objects. They have always been objects of dread to the superstitious and to the uninstructed, and an enigma to those most conversant with the wonders of creation and the operations of the natural causes. The learned Greeks and Romans, who with the other great nations have shared in this universal awe and dread, have handed down to us, often with circumstantial minuteness, the aspects of remarkable comets. To some, the bodies were torrential exhalations kindling in the region of fire, but to others they were the spirits of great men which were mounting to the sky, and which in leaving it were handing over our poor planet to the plagues with which it is so often attacked. In the year 43 BC, during the celebration of the games given by the Emperor Augustus in honor of Venus, a hairy star seen for 7 days under the Great Bear. It was very brilliant and was seen in all parts of the world. See, they're covering them up, they're hiding them. The Romans appear to have seriously believed that this comet was really the spirit of Julius Caesar on its way to join the ranks of the immortal gods. They never give the mighty one the credit that's due. Always some person they know they think is great. Ovid, in his great work dedicated to Augustus Caesar, concludes with this same metamorphosis. He says, Venus descends from the ethereal vaults, invisible to all eyes, and stops in the midst of the Senate. From the body of Caesar, she takes his spirit, prevents it from evaporating, and bears it to the region of the stars. And rising, the goddess feels it transformed into a divine and glowing substance. Gentiles can romanticize anything and everything and make it be about them, and it has absolutely nothing to do with them. Nothing on this planet has ever had anything to do with them, but they made it so. She allows it to escape from her bosom. The spirit flies away beyond the moon and becomes a brilliant star which draws through a long space its ignited hair. Their spirits. Okay. Okay, people have to see what they want to see, but this is what they said. So now let's look at some of the comets. Since they're so rare, we want to at least check out the few that they've seen. Okay, they've identified. So the comet of 1680 was first seen with a telescope by Godfrey Kirch at Corbury in November. It is sometimes called Newton's comet because, as we have stated before, in reference to it, he showed the applicability of the law of gravitation, and should it appear in 2255, it will probably be regarded as a memorial of Newton. Upon the principle of the law of universal gravitation, Newton calculated its orbit and found that the comet was moving in a long elliptic orbit, requiring several centuries to traverse. Newton, as well as Halley, thought that it might be identical with large comets seen in AD 1106. Wow. AD 531 and BC 44. BC 44? Wow. The one which appeared just after the death of Julius Caesar. They noticed a comma in BC 44 after the death of Julius Caesar. That's a rarity. More recent calculations, however, show that the period of the comma of 1680 is more than the interval 575 years, but it is important to determine this accurately from observation made at the one appearance. We have no exact observations of the commas of 43 BC, 531 AD, and 1106 AD. We cannot calculate their orbits, and therefore we lack the only criteria by which we could decide with certainty the identity of these comets. We do know that those of 1680 AD and 1106 AD, of 531 AD, and of 43 BC were very brilliant, and we find that the time elapsing between these appearances is roughly 575 years. From 1106 to 1680, we have 574 years. From 531 to 1106, we have 575 years. From 43 to 531 is 575 years. The next remarkable comet was the famous Halley's Comet, which appeared in 1682. This appearance led to the first successful prediction of a return of a comet. It was made by Dr. Halley, the contemporary of Newton. Halley's prediction was fulfilled 16 years after his death by the comet's reappearance in 1758. Halley calculated the elements of the orbit of the comet of 1682 and applied the same methods of calculations to the observations of which Kepler had made on the comet of 1607. He found that this gave results in regard to the inclination of its orbit, the place of its node, the situation of its perihelion, and perihelion, and the retrograde direction of its movements so closely comparable to the first set that there was little doubt that it was the same object. Between these two periods, there was an interval of 75 years. In reckoning backwards from 1607, he found that in 1531 or 1532, a similar comet had been observed, and the results deduced were almost precisely the same. Going still further back, he found that a similar comet had appeared in 1456. This was the comet which excited such great consternation in Europe, its appearance having been regarded as connected with the menacing success of the Mohammedan armies. Butchered that, but okay. Since there were not sufficient observations on this comet, its elements could not be determined. Also, also, a remarkable comet recorded as having been observed in 1305 or two 75-year periods previously, and also one in 1230 were reasonably supposed to have been the same. So they've known about these comets for a long time. And this one in 1456, I wonder about that, if it happened because of, what happened in 1492. I'll have to check that out. Halley's Comet, by its apparition in 1066, gave rise to the objurgations of the monk of Malmesbury, which has been quoted by Pingree from an Old English chronicle, seeing his country on the point of being attacked on the one side by Harold, King of Norway, on the other side by William, and judging that bloodshed would ensue. "Here art thou then," said he, apostrophizing the comet, "here art thou, source of the tears of many mothers. Long have I seen thee, but now thou appearest to me more terrible, for thou menacest my country with complete ruin." Wow. Going back further still, we find that Halley's Comet is that which announced the death of Louis Le de Bonnery, which came to pass 3 years later. Lastly, the comet of 684 is also one of its apparitions. Wow. We will say nothing of the famous comets of 1556, to the influence of which was long attributed the abdication of the Emperor Charles V, because it happens that the celebrated emperor had already descended from his throne when the comet made its appearance. We shall have no occasion to speak further on the announcement of its return between 1848 and 1860, and of its non-reappearance. So there have been quite a few comets over the years. For quite some time, the Gentiles have known about the comets. Even though this information hasn't been put in any of our books, the only way that they could have obtained this information is from thought, from Enoch, from our people, because they had no knowledge of any of this stuff before they came over here. So, or before, what happened in Jerusalem in 70 AD, or our people going into captivity over there, and getting all our records. So they didn't know any of this information, beforehand. They didn't come up with this on their own. They got this from the records. So now we're going to talk about the area, that most interests me, where I'm really headed. But it's so funny. I started making this video before Big Levi came on today, Noga. And it's funny that he mentioned all of these things that I'm going to talk about right now. So, you guys get a little bit more information, based on what I, dug up regarding the comets and what's going on with the rays. Okay. So, comets are in great number and of more than one kind. So that just kind of like knocks out this newspaper article, stating, that, trying to act as though they're not that common. They know about them. They're up there now, but they're covering them up. Okay. So comets are in great number and of more than one kind. Their dimensions are unequal, their colors are different. Some are red without luster, others are white and shine with a pure liquid light. Others again present a flame, neither pure nor fine, but enveloped in much smoky fire. Some are blood red, sinister, presage of the blood soon to be shed. Their light augments and decreases like that of other stars, which throw out more light and appear larger and more luminous in proportion as they descend and come nearer to us, and are smaller and less luminous when they are returning and increasing their distance from us. So there's a lot going on there in color, and that has to do with the planets and with the rays, okay? So we're going to go over some of that. Seneca, as we shall soon see, adopts this system in which observations and conjectures nearly approaching the truth are mixed with various errors and traces of the reigning superstitions. The assimilation of comets to the planets as far as concerns their movements is a luminous idea which is all the more truthful about Apollonius points out at the same time a characteristic difference between the two kinds of celestial bodies, viz., that comets are more visible in a small portion of their orbits. So let's start talking about some of the celestial bodies and the planets. So we're going to revisit the book Seven Rays Made Visual. I haven't really discussed Ray 5 yet, but I've mentioned it. But I found this hilarious after listening to the beloved brother Big Levi this morning. I keep saying we're all where we're supposed to be, doing what we're supposed to do. The separations have occurred, that's all done. There may be more separations, but really, we're where we're supposed to be. It's just that simple. This could not get any clearer. The ray of concrete science comes through ray 3, the ray of aspect under ray 3. These rays, ray 5, ray 4, 5, 6, and 7 are rays of attributes. Okay, it's like dealing with the attributes of the different planets, just like the planets deal with the attributes of people. Okay, this is the exact same thing. It's just dealing with the planets. So check this out. The ray of concrete science. This is the knowledge that you have. It comes under the ray of knowledge. Okay, active intelligence. So look where we are with this ray. The constellations served under this ray is Leo, Sagittarius. See, Leo, this is why you got the narcissist coming out because you got these rays, green ray going through there right now. So you have Leo, Sagittarius, and Aquarius, and the planet is Venus. I mean, it all lines up with this comet and the time that we're under right now. It doesn't, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You just can't make it up. Check it out. Leo, Sagittarius, Aquarius, and Venus. This is the ray 5, where we are, is what affects these planets, and what affects Venus at this time. These rays have an impact on everything, and this is where we are. I mean, it's great to see it because this planet, it just came out, it just started. So it's something to tie it into exactly what's going on, in this cosmos right now. I love it. So, Ray 5, the ray of concrete knowledge and science, is the stream of energy behind which stands the Lord of knowledge and science. This great life is in close touch with the mind of the Creator. It is the ray of science and of research. In both fields of endeavor, much attention has been given to the outer forms of life. But now a beam of light illuminates the form, the hidden knowledge of the Mighty One, and how he veils himself and finds its way into human minds and thoughts. Energies and forces reveal their inner purpose, and much is seen as process, as rhythm, and as returning on itself. This is exactly what subatomic research and biochemistry are bringing through these scientists. This has nothing to do with these scientists. It has nothing to do with them, because anything that has to do with them isn't spiritual, and the aspects and the attributes are all going to come out to be something negative, because there's no spirituality in these people or the things that they do. This is the reason why there's so much wickedness on the earth, because they've been doing things and they've not had the Ruach as a guide, because the Ruach wasn't here for them. It was here for, she was here for us, for spirituality, and everything that they do is a result of wickedness. Because if the Ruach was here for them, they would not create the wickedness that they're and do the things that they do. So we know that whatever's going on with the rays at this point, it really has nothing positive to do with them. Okay, listen at this now about the energy. The fifth ray energy comes to our solar system by way of Leo, Sagittarius, and Aquarius, and expresses itself primarily through the planet Venus. Leo is a controlling factor at this time because Leo produces a growth of individualism and of self consciousness that is today so prevalent on a world scale. Okay? Our present Aryan race, the fifth root race, is strongly influenced by the fifth ray energy with its keynote of mental development. If they're not talking about us as the Aryan race, this has nothing to do with anybody else. It's just that simple. This may account for our strong emphasis today on education, science, technology, and psychology. I would give them a strong F on every one of those subjects if it's talking about them, because this has nothing to do with them. They have no clarity regarding education, science, technology, or psychology. That's just the bottom line. The mental plane, however, is a dual plane of lower concrete mind and higher mind. It's lower concrete and higher mind. Through the energy of Ray 5, we learn to know our world of forms, not only for their own sake, but as prerequisites to the higher and deeper understanding of their true purpose that sees the outer forms as instruments to soul, purpose, and quality. The higher mind must be allowed to purify the lower mind in order to make it the powerful and constructive tool it is meant to be. We got to do that shadow work. You got to get off of that pettiness, and attacking your people, and get on that shadow work, because if you're attacking people, especially your brethren or sisterin, then that means that it's not something that's wrong with them, it's something wrong with you that requires you to do your shadow work. When the knowledge of the Mighty One shall shine forth universally, the expression through the human instrumentality of the divine omnipotence, then will the Lord of concrete science, who is the embodiment of the fifth principle of mind, see his work brought to conclusion. You got to do that shadow work. You got to work on self, because this stuff is deep. There is a lot going on out there now. I mean, a lot going on. And can't blame others for what's going on with you if you're having problems in your life, because they're the Gentiles, they're and the other nations, they're a whole separate different fight. And the goal now is to correct all of these lies and this wickedness and put things in their prospective place. This is not the time to attack your brethren or anybody. I mean, really, this is a time to do the work on yourself. Do your shadow work on self. It's just that simple. Everybody should be very comfortable where they are, because they've made the decisions for themselves about where they want to be at this time. And so there shouldn't be any conflict among the nation. Our fight is not within, it's without, okay? So be comfortable in yourself in whatever decisions that you make. Do that shadow work. Keep building. Okay, so we're dealing with Ray 5, and we're going to look at Sagittarius and how it affects spiritual groups. Okay, one might think that spiritual groups would be one of the few areas where the sanctity of truth is preserved, but alas, quite often, far from it. Even within the area of very similar teachings, there are many divergencies of opinion and interpretation, and also how material should be presented. Hence, the house can be divided against itself, while members of its family make ad hoc decisions and judgments based upon their version of the truth. Brothers of the same spiritual family can arrogantly sit in judgment of another. This is where shadow work comes in, and Sister Pat, she has services for that. If you guys can't do your own shadow work, there's someone in the nation who can help with that. And Sister Pat can do that. So brothers of the same spiritual family can arrogantly sit in judgment of one another. Sagittarius is associated with the law and is also one of the most judgmental signs of the zodiac. Judgmentalism comes from a narrow interpretation that the one pointedness of Sag brings out, plus the superficiality of its Gemini counterpart, the sixth ray, is also involved. Hence, Sag can be very easily fooled by outer appearances, making judgment accordingly. It can tend to tar all with the same brush. Sagittarius can get very attached to religious or spiritual thought, hence the fundamentalism mentioned earlier, as well as it rises whilst Pluto transits through Sagittarius. You have a lot going on with the rays. I mean, these rays and the way it affects the planets, the vibrations, the frequency, it all depends on where you are within self. As Sagittarius rules over truth, so it rules over illusion. The truth, veiled or distorted, can be a very fine line sometimes. So we really have to watch ourselves and do that shadow work. It is so important that we work on self, not on your brethren or your sisterin, or all these things. Work on self. We have someone in the nation that is willing to provide that psychological and emotional equilibrium, because there has to be balance in everything. In the arrogance within the nation, it's unfathomable. I mean, oh man, really work on that shadow work. I'm only going to mention Leo because everyone should know about Leo, but it says here Leo is the sign of pride. So when you have the rays working on pride and arrogance, there are all type of things that are going on here. And the rays are heavy upon the earth right now. So we really got to get that shadow work done. However, I am going to take a look at Aquarius, the water bearer, because this is the age that we're going into, and it's very significant that the ray upon the earth right now has to do with Leo, Aquarius, Sagittarius, and Venus. They're all in harmony. The music of the spirits, everything is working in balance. It's all here. So let's look at Aquarius. Aquarius is a sign of the greater precession cycle into which we are astronomically entering. The sign of the water bearer, the server of humanity, is profound, ruled at one level by Uranus, Hierophant of the mysteries, and at a higher level by Jupiter, planet of love and wisdom. As we enter this 2160-year Aquarian cycle, it is worth bearing in mind that is coinciding with the 25,000-year cycle of Aquarius on the greater will, hence increasing its potency. There's a lot going on here. I mean, and these rays are powerful. They are very powerful. And the way they go through these planets and what is projected is all in your the astrological signs. And people think, that, because we are children of the light, that these rays don't affect us in any way. They do, because there's seven rays on the planet right now, and then there are other rays out in the cosmos, and how the rays hit those planets affect us. They affect us as well, because we're on this planet. We're going to be in the cosmos, and they're still going to affect us. We are affected by anything that happens in the cosmos. As above, so below. There's polarity in everything, mentalism in everything. So we're not, you know, set apart from what's happening with these rays and the way they affect the planets. This is what people are failing to understand. People are just looking at, the planets. It's not just the planets. It's the rays that are in harmony with the planets. Everything is affected because of the rays. We've never been told this, but this is how it works. It's the cosmic solar rays that affect everything. Everything. They're the ones, the rays causes the planets to function the way that they do. I'm trying to work on now about the birth ray and the life ray and how to chart these, because they're going to be charted very similar to the way that astrology has been charted. But the rays have been left out. Everything. This is what we failed to realize. At the root of everything is a cause. We've been given the planets, but we've not been given the rays on how they affect planets, which is the cause of everything else that happens. That transference, that transmutation, that transformation, all of that starts with the rays. It all starts with the rays, but we weren't given that information. So we're not, set apart from any of this, because the rays affect us. Because the rays are transmuted through the planets, through the constellations. All of that comes into play, and we're going to get into all of that. So this Aquarius is very important. So as we enter this 2160-year Aquarian cycle, it is worth bearing in mind that it is coinciding with the 25,000-year cycle of Aquarius on the greater wheel, hence increasing its potency. Added to this is the fact that a cycle of the seventh ray of ceremonial order or magic, that's what we talked about before, also ruled by Uranus, is coinciding with the above cycles, having occurred only 6 times since the inception of this, our fifth root race. The combined activity of these forces will help manifest what is known as the light supernal upon the seventh planet, the physical plane. And that supernal light is important because it is the guiding light of divinity that is hidden deep within each of us. As an individual increasingly awakens to love and wisdom of the soul, this sacred light gradually begins to crest upon the shores of consciousness. So the supernal light, all of these things work together. And until we know and get that wisdom, how all of this works and how it affects us as star seeds and light bearers, we have to get the knowledge, as much knowledge as possible, so we can relate these things together. It's not one thing and that's it. It's everything. Everything has to do with the cosmos. The battles that we're fighting here are the same battles that we're fighting in the cosmos. That is another topic. The supernal light, okay, the combined activity of these forces will help manifest what is known as the light supernal upon the seventh plane, the physical plane. This type of event always occurs at a major point of planetary crisis with with the coincidence of the seventh ray in Aquarius. The light supernal can only be really investigated with the aid of occult knowledge combined with meditation, and it is not the purpose of this essay to explore that, rather to look at the two areas of mysticism and occultism. So these things are very important. They work together. The astrology works with the astronomy because it all works with the rays. It's not separate. This is not separate. Even though the Gentiles separated all of the information and put it into different books, it doesn't mean that it is separate. We have to learn how this affects not only us, but how it affects the Gentiles, how it's going to affect those that are going to be here on the earth, how it affects the star seeds, the earth seeds, the light bearers. We need to know this knowledge, and everybody can't get, one person can't get all this knowledge. And it's not up to anyone to tell people what knowledge to acquire and what knowledge not to acquire, because you haven't laid the groundwork to find out all of this knowledge and how it works. The rays are behind it all. The solar rays affect everything, everything. And I don't even have all of this knowledge yet. I am trying to get there because the solar rays affect the life. There's a life ray and there's a birth ray. I've started trying to acquire that knowledge, but I don't have it all. There's a lot that we don't know. A lot. In the days of people cutting us off and telling us what to learn and what not to learn, it's over. We're not even going to let the Gentiles do that, and we're not going to regurgitate the Gentile stuff. We're going to get our own knowledge in the best way that we can, and that's through the Mighty One and through the Ruach. Shut it down. Now, I saved something for last that I didn't even discuss when I talked about the fifth ray. But check this out. We know that the comet that just came through that is here is green. Check out on your screen right now the color of ray 5, the Lord of science and concrete knowledge. That ray is green. That's the ray that goes through Venus. See, all of these rays, I'm going to get to it. There's so much more. This was not the video that I was going to do. I wanted to do something else, but this was what I was led to do today because of the comet, and to get, to expound on the information and get a little bit more knowledge about the comets and how they work. This was a perfect opportunity for that. I didn't even see it. It was the Mighty One, the Ruach that revealed this knowledge. And when Big Levi discussed it this morning, it was a wow moment. I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm talking about today. So this information, it really sheds some light on things, for me. And I pray, that it helps you guys as well. But the ray 5, the Lord of science and concrete knowledge, that ray is green. It's the ray that that is Venus, that went through Venus. So everything is vibrating the way that it's supposed to. And we're able to see within the nation how all of these rays work and how they combine just with this comet. Okay? All praises to the Mighty One. All praises to the Mighty One. Much, much, much love and respect to the Ruach, the Divine Mother, and love to the Hamashiach for the sacrifice. Shalom, shalom, shalom.